Hey everyone, and welcome back to UE5 BP Guru. Today we're actually going to be continuing on with the Pokemon series, the Pokemon clone. Ringmons is what my game is codenamed. For those just joining us in for the first time. Now, this episode will replace a bunch of old episodes. I will just hide them, and then you can start from this one. Now, for you, those who have followed the first 22, 23 episodes to this point, not much will change in this first update episode, so don't fret and feel like you've wasted a lot of time. But a lot of these updates are sort of optimizing the game while also making them work a little bit more fluidly, adding some new things in. But I'm just going to basically go from start to finish and cover as much as I can. And then in the next update episode, I will cover everything encounters and trainers so that you are basically up to where I am. Now, don't get me wrong, a lot has changed, but hopefully a lot of the code we've done has just been replaced / made better, more efficient, if you will. So I'm going to try and cover the starter, getting your starter, and also just choosing or rolling your encounter. Those two have been completely... I've gone through everything, and I'm quite happy that at this point, for my video game, I won't be changing anything else from this point on. If you do see anything else within my code that you feel could be improved or changed, please let me know, because I would be happy to revisit stuff down the line, of course. So, a lot of you recognize this scene. This hasn't really changed. We've got our Nurse Joy or Dr. Linetti or whatever you want to call it down here where we can heal our Ringmon. We have our 3 starters in here, and we have our route, our makeshift route where we can test kind of trainer battles and, of course, encountering some wild Ringmon. So let's have a look first at the setup kind of stuff. So a lot of you, again, if you're joining us from episode 22, you'll already know a lot of this. But we have, first of all, in our maps, we have this, our overworld, which is Cornwallington, which is was going to be our first town. And we also have a grass battle level, which is what we'll cover in the next episode. But that is where we're going to do most of our battling for now. We also have our battle proxy, which is going to run our battle code. So that's the map and everything else within it, those 2 things there. We also have our third-person character with all of our widgets in there. So we have our battle widgets, dialogue widgets. We have a battle UI, BPI. Again, all of this will be covered in the next episode. We do have a party start menu, which I want to redevelop and rechange. So a lot of that will come up in a future episode now. We have a pause menu, which is opened with, I believe, T for now, because escape will actually close the game window. So it's set up for T for now, but let's open that up. Let's just have a look at some of these widgets. We have basically just a main menu. It's got a load of buttons in it. Party, bag, ring deck, save game, options, and close menu. Now, the only things that work on it at the moment is close menu. And, of course, opening that party menu. But, again, I will be changing a lot of that in an upcoming video where I redo everything. But just for now, the close menu is just removal widgets and setting the mode back to game mode only. And that's that. If we click on the team button, all it does is reopen that party widget, and that's everything that's actually in here for now. We still need to develop a lot of that. So that's most of our widgets. I don't think there's really anything else we need to kind of cover at this point in time. I have set up a brand new player HUD, which has just got, for now, it just shows you what Ringmons in our teams, but it will eventually have a mini map and how much money we have on us, etc. Other than that, nothing else has really been developed menu-wise, so I'm not going to worry too much about that either. What we really need for the setup is going to be all of our creature information. Now, I have some Ringmon models. You can see a bunch of them here. I have already revealed a lot of these, but what's going to be most important for today is our creature master BP, our Ringmon start BP, except Ringmon, or I call it Pokemon there, but it's Ringmon, obviously. So we want to be able to pick a starter. Now, first off, we need our creature master BP set up. Now, for me, I've set up a bunch of different little structures that hold all of my information for me that is going to be important. So let's start with our base info structure. So we have things like the index number. We have the Ringmon class, which is just our creature master BP. So for every child creature we create from our creature master BP, which I will show you shortly, it will create that child as an option to select when we're setting up our creatures, and we want to make sure that's set because that will pull through our static mesh that we want to spawn. Obviously it's name. Now the reason I've got the name separate from sort of, for example, the Ringmon class or anything like that is because we want to be able to change that. So for example, you always see people call their Ringmons, Pokemon's, TemTems random little names. We'll be able to do that using that down the line. We have a species, so that's something, again, TemTems and Pokemon both do. They have a species, like there'll be like a water otter or a grass toad, or, you know, it's just something, cool little bit of information, but it's not relevant at this point. It's just a index kind of little extra. Now we have its typing, so we have a maximum of 2 typings you can get on any Pokemon, TemTem or Ringmon. We have a description, so that's just, again, the dex description is not important at the moment, and weight and height is not also important. Sprite, I just put that in if you wanted to have like a little sprite in your menus. I haven't actually utilized that at this point. We then have our move slots, which is an array of the available moves. I will talk more about that in a moment. We have current XP, max XP, current level, max level, and evolution level. All of those will be important to use when we're setting up our Ringmons. We have, is it shiny? So that will be determined when we spawn a Ringmon. We have the 3 materials. Admittedly, it would be nice if this was just one, but there's one of my Ringmons that has 3 separate materials, hence why there's 3. But you should, if you're making your creatures with 1 material, you'll only need 1 for shiny and 1 for non-shiny, but I have 3 for each at the moment. We then have a non-shiny image, shiny image. We then have the base experience, which is a value you give to any of your creatures so they can calculate the XP given when you defeat them. We have an active status, which is like if it's frozen, poisoned, paralyzed, confused, etc. We then have a catch rate, which this is, again, if you're going to catch something. So, for example, Pidgey has always got 255. Same for Caterpie, same for Rattata. Whereas legendaries have 3, so Mewtwo would have a 3 for a catch rate. And then we have its gender, if it's male or female. You can see the order in which I've added these in as I've been doing them. They're not organized in any way whatsoever. But these are all the ones that I use for my basic information structure. So once you've set all of that up, I'll leave it there for a second, but once that's all set up, you can close that down. If we go back to here, we also have a base stat structure. That's not needed anymore, so don't worry about that one, because we hold that within a data... Oh no, you will still need to make it, sorry, so that we can create a data table out of that. And the base... where is it? Oh, have I opened up the wrong one? I did. The base stats... Let's open it up. Is a combination of max HP, max attack, max defense, max special attack, max special defense, max speed, accuracy, evasiveness, and then we have a level up moveset, which is just a name with an integer. Nothing too crazy, but you can see it here. If I click on an add, it's got none and 0. So that's what that looks like. So again, it is just, all you need to do is create the name, and then come onto this drop down and select a map and set that map extra as an integer. Very, very simple. And that's all you need for your base stat structure. Now, we also have the Ringmon build struct. We'll come to that in a moment. We have the EV struct, which again is just HP and HP max. Now, the max in this sense isn't what the max should be. It's with EVs, you add your opponent's base stat sort of figures to your EVs, but you can only have a maximum of, I think it's like 63,000 EVs. So that's what that max is. So if you go to your defaults, all of these should... Oh gosh, I'm messing with the figures. Copy, they should always have a default of 65,535 EVs. So I would highly recommend in the defaulting that, so you don't have to constantly write out 65,535 every time you call your EVs and set them. But yeah, and then HP, all the rest should be 0 because those are what will get set basically. So we can now close that down. So those are all just integers. You should be able to set that up relatively simple. Let's close these widgets down for now so they're not in the way. Right. Then we have our final stat strut, and you've probably guessed it's just HP, HP max, attack max, all the way down. And these are all floats, and that's so that we can figure out when we call our stats and set them, we can basically manipulate them and then add them into this structure. And they again should all be 0 because the max, the attack, once you'll always roll your final stats every time. And the reason we have a max is that when we heal, we can always revert back to what the maximum was. And then the health goes back to the maximum, and the attack will always go back to the maximum. And also when you're using items, it will help you to determine after a battle when they should return. Now mine, I'm going for something slightly different, where the stats won't revert until you heal at a Nurse Joy / Dr. Linetti. But if you wanted to, all you need to do is add in a function that at the end of a battle, it takes all of your Ringmons and sets them all back to their maximums, basically. And then we have an IV stat, which again is just the same thing. It's just a set of integers with HP attack, defense, SP attack, SP defense, speed, and accuracy. Actually, you don't need to do accuracy. Actually, can't remember now. Don't know if accuracy is needed, but I think I'd do it anyway for mine. Doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, this is just rolled once anyway, and will always remain the same. This is basically what you find people hunt for when they're doing these perfect creature stats. They're looking for these 31, 31, 31, 31, 31 IVs. Yeah, perfect IVs across the board. So that's what you're kind of going for with those. That's everything you need for your master BP. Now, I was doing this a different way before, where I was setting all the information within these creatures, these child BPs. I was setting all the information up. You can see it. I've already done it with her badger, for example. Let's have a look. Where I've gone through and I've set you don't need to set any of the stat information, but I was going through and setting up all of this index information, Ringmon class names. You don't need to worry about any of this now. As long as when you set up your master BP, you have all of these in here. They can be blank, but you don't need to set any information. So they just got to be blank, but they have to be in here. Okay, so that we can call these and set them when we create a new Ringmon in the world. Excuse me. But you'll see with some of my newer ones, now they haven't got any animations yet, but you should be able to see that I think the only thing I did set was the material, so I could see it on them. But everything else, I did set this one up. I don't know why. It's got, still got it's because I've duplicated the her badger. It's got all of her badger's information in there except for the materials. But it doesn't matter, because what we're going to do, instead of setting it on these creatures and having them in the world, because if you imagine, that would be, if I'm going to do roughly 120 Ringmon for the first region, that would be 120 Ringmon that would have to be in the world. Not efficient, very, very badly optimized. So instead, what we do is, if we come back to the creatures, you'll see I have this creature info data table. And in each one, each row is created for its own Ringmon, and it has exactly the same information I had in it before. The difference is we're calling it from here now instead. If I go to Grow Hopper, for example, you'll see I've actually set up Grow Hopper's information correctly. But it's just basically a lot better for your system, because instead of having those creatures in the world and having to constantly load in all that information all the time, you can just basically call this creature data table and just grab the one you need when you're actually spawning that creature. So much better. Same for the base stats. In here we've got the same thing: Herbadger, Tailflame, Oster. I haven't set them all up yet, but you can see down here it's got their max information in here, and it also has a list of moves they can learn and when they learn them. So again, this is something we'll cover down the line, but for now, it will, as Herbadger levels up, he will get Scratch, Growl, Root Sap, Vine Slash, etc. So if it's 0, they will always spawn with that. If they are spawning at level 7, they will spawn with Root Sap, just as an example. So, yeah, very easy stuff. So, now we've got our base stats there. So the base stat, obviously the data table is created from the base stat structure. The creature information is coming from that Ringmon base information structure. And then we've got things like move list. So we have a list of moves here. These are all potential moves a creature can learn. So for example, if you want to give Herbadger Scratch and Growl, it must be on this list. Okay, it has to have Scratch, has to have Growl, and all its information in there, so that we can give it those moves. Same for things like, you can see there's Root Sap on there. You'll see some other moves on here that I've got from for other creatures, like Pinch and Freeze Spray, Vine Slash, Stinger Strike, Peck, Tail Whips on here, Tackles on here. So every single move for every single creature, no matter what it is, has to be on this list. Otherwise, it will not pull through the information for that move. So yeah, you need to have a move list, and that comes from I think it's this one, TM Move Struct. Yep. So yeah, so it's just a long list of information that you would need for your creatures. So for example, it has to have its move name, its description of that move, the move type. Now that's written, and it's also an e-typing. So the reason for that is I do the checks with the move type, and I think, or do I do the checks with the written? One or the other. But it's basically pulling through that. It's better to have both than none, right? Or one and then it's wrong. So we have it written, and we also have it from our e-typing, which I think that's because it checks it against the typing of the creature. And the written move is it's checking for that written move along against what's written in its move list. We'll come to it. But they are both important. They are being pulled through for something else. That's just checking the type when we're actually doing the damage. So it's checking to see if this move type is matched. Or no, it's just checking it via our damage table against the creature's given typing. So if you're using a grass move against water, it's looking to do 2 times. But if you're using a grass move against the fire, it's going to do half damage. So it's just checking that typing against whatever the creature's, the enemy's typing is. Then we have the accuracy of the move, the power of the move. We have PP, but I haven't set that up yet. I might not. I might leave PP out of this game. I'm not sure. Then we have the list of debuffs. So again, it's just a name variable with a mapping of a float, and that will come into play when we start going down the battle stuff. We then have a list of booleans just to determine whether it's a self-afflicting move like Sword Dance, for example, or is it going against the enemy. So if it is self, then we know it needs to do something to ourselves. If it's not, then we can carry on. Has it got dual effect? So does it affect ourselves and them? If that's true, we get a buff, they get a debuff. It also is checking to see if it is actually a status move at all. If it's not, then we need to check if it is, obviously, if it's physical or not. If it is physical, we do a physical attack. If it's not, the only logical left place for it to go is it's a special move, like Flamethrower, for example. And then we're also checking at one point whether it's a condition move. So will it leave them with burn? Will it leave them with, will it make them frozen? Put them to sleep, for example, you know? All those kind of things. So we're doing all those kind of checks just through the move struct. And that's where the data table comes from. That move list comes from. It comes from that structure we've set up. And then that way we can select all this. So for example, if we go to Growl, we know it is a status move, but it doesn't affect the self or have a dual effect. But for example, Freeze Spray, it is a status move. It doesn't affect the self, but it does create frozen condition. It will freeze them if they use that move. So yeah, so lots of different things there to unpack. I'm trying not to make this too long of a video, so if I am going too fast, please ask me questions in the Discord. I'm more than happy to explain this stuff or slow it down and things like that. So we've got our moves, we've got all our creature information, and we've got all of our base stat stuff going on. The only other thing left to look at now before we go into accepting the Ringmon, oh, it's auto-saving, my apologies. Also, the E-typing, I'll show you all this stuff. The E-typing is just an enumerator, sorry, I couldn't say that one, with a list of all of our typings in there. It's just a list of typings so that we know what's what. The gender is literally just another male-female kind of enumerator. It's just so we can pick one or the other. And then we've got... What else have we got? The other stuff is for encountering, so we'll leave that for a moment. Oh, and then the Ringmon list. It's not important. I'm going to probably use this mainly for our ring decks so that we can check things. But for now, I'm not too worried about that. The rest of this stuff is for later. Move slot. So we had that 4 move slots. There's 4 move slots. That is just move name, move PP, move max PP, and is it set. The reason for that is so that we can actually store that on the creature. Might be in creature. Let's go back to the base info. So what this is if we go to default values, we've basically we've gone to the default and we've created 4 slots within that array. And if you pull it down, oh, no, wrong one, it's this one. It's got that information. That's what we've done. So all we did is we went to the structure, we added in the move slot structure, we clicked down on here and we just clicked array. And all that does is it just allows us to then add in how many slots we want in here. And obviously we've created 4 because that's how many max moves we want. So that's how we did that, going back to that. So hopefully everything makes sense so far. If it doesn't, please ask me questions in the comments. I will answer as soon as I have a moment's chance. This video is already getting really long. It's already over the 20-minute mark. So let's do just accept Pokemon today. And on tomorrow or the next day, I will release the Encounter BP section. So let's open up the Ringmon Start BP. Now this is the actual object we have in the world. It's just a collision box. There's nothing too special about it. It did have a sphere on it, but I've changed that now to actually look like the Ringmon bracelets we're going to be using. So yeah, that's why it doesn't actually look like a sphere. Just so you know. What have we got in here? So we've got Ringmon name. Now that's what we set. That's why it's exposed on spawn. Yeah, it's exposed on spawn. And no, sorry, instance editable. That's why. So that we can set what name we want to show from each box. We then have the Ringmon information, which again is probably invalid now. We don't actually use that anymore. And we have 2 booleans, has rolled and is shiny, and then we have the gender of the Ringmon, which I've set in here as a variable. So if you head on over to the event graph, so basically just before we do that, actually all you need to do is put in a collision box with an object or a sphere, just so you can see it, you know where it is in the world properly when you're in game. And then you can just drag 3 out to wherever you want them in the world. Like for me, for example, I have mine on these kind of little stone blocks. You can put yours wherever you want, obviously within the world. Then we have our code. So we obviously start with a begin overlap and end overlap, and we're casting to the third person character. We are enabling and disabling the inputs on the begin. We're enabling. On the end, we're disabling using the get player controller. Now, for anyone who has been following the series, this is where it will slightly change. We used to do a for each loop where we casted to the master BP. That's why we had to have those creatures in the world, so that you could essentially look through every single one that was in the world and find the one that matches the name, which is this Ringmon name we're using. It would check to see if that equaled the creature that we found in the world. But again, having all those creatures in the world, very inoptimized. We've gotten rid of those, and now we can call the data table. So get data table row creature information data table is where what we've put in, and we've added that Ringmon name into the row name, so it will find that Ringmon that we've called in here. So for example, if I click on one of these, there we go, you can see I've got her badger in there. So it's going to use that Ringmon name. It's going to find that from our data table row, and it's going to pull, and from that out row we've just broken it so we can get the basic structure info, and we're just doing one final check just to make sure that they equal. Now it should anyway. You shouldn't necessarily need the branch, to be honest. I do it just to be safe, so that it doesn't move on without them being equal. Now realistically I could just carry on and forget all of that, but I'd rather not. I'd rather we do it right and we double check. But again, you don't have to do this. You don't have to do any of this, because this will always find that row in there, and you can just move on to the next step. The next thing I'm doing is I'm defining the gender of our Ringmon by just doing a random integer between 0 and 100. If it comes above 51, it's going to be male. If it's below 51, it's female. And there's no other genders that we need to worry about when it comes to creature capture games, because when it comes to breeding, we just want it to be male and female. Now, if we're dealing with legendaries and we don't want it to have a gender, you could just take this code out and it will not provide it with a gender. It's as simple as that. Or you could just make them 100% male or 100% female. You know, it really doesn't make much difference, because then you can't breed them, right? Unless you're using a ditto. So I suppose that's the only way you could breed them, if that's the case. But the better thing to do is to set it to none. There is an option for none, so you can just set them to none. And then we are just taking that variable and we're setting the members in our basic information. To do this, you would probably want to pull off from our out row and then go set members in Ringmon info structure, and it will come up with this little box, and you can just tick what you need from it. So for starter, especially with Pokemon, actually and TemTems and now Ringmons, I guess, everything starts at level 5. It's, you know, nothing ever really starts at level 1 or 2, 3, 4 or 10. You always get them at 5. It's kind of like the standard, I guess, in these sort of games. And ours is no different. We're just going to set that current level to 5. We're going to check to see if it's shiny. Now, that's done up here on the event begin play. We check to see has it rolled. Now, if that's true, we do nothing, because we've already rolled whether this is shiny or not. So we want to come off the false. And we only want to ever do this once. We don't ever want to do it again. Do it once. And what we're doing is we're checking that shiny odds between 1 and 4096. If it comes back as 1, it's shiny. If it doesn't, it's not shiny. And then we just set that has rolled. That way, it will never go past this code again. And the do once is just a second check to make sure that if this fails, this has rolled for whatever reason, doesn't work, or it resets or anything like that, it's never going to run it again, because we've already done the do once. So it's just a double safety net to make sure there's no kind of ways that anyone could accidentally re-roll their shinies or find a loophole in that code. They'd have to restart a new game and re-roll again if they want to find a shiny. A bit like how Pokemon does it. So that's where we're getting his shiny from. That's where we're getting our gender from. And we're setting those two. And then all we're doing is we're getting our player character, we're casting the third person character, and we're setting that as our current Ringmon. And we're making that information there. We don't have to worry about setting these. Now, normally when you make a build or a strat, these will come back as blank. We don't have to worry about that because they're already blank. There's no information in there. We don't do that until we actually select which one we want. This is just pre-stuff, pre-information of checking whether it's shiny, and what gender it is, and setting the level. We don't have to worry about anything else, and we can set that as our current Ringmon, which is what we also use for our encounters. So yeah, very, very simple stuff. And then when we press E to say make a decision, so I'll show you what I mean. If I press play quickly, is it going to do it? Oh gosh, it's because I'm recording, it's being a bit laggy. I do apologize. Let's delete my save, my current save, and then press play again. We should come back at this. There we are. So when I go up to this and I press E, it comes up with my option menu. Would you like to receive her badger? And I say yes, I would. Now obviously I haven't saved anything, so I close that. It's going to make me re-choose in a second. But what we're doing now, so this is where we're at now. So this all happens every time we walk into each individual box. The only thing that won't happen is whether it's shiny or not. So that will always only happen once, and once it's set, it will stay that way. So it doesn't matter if I walk into one box and then back into another box and walk into another box, it will always remember what this choice was. One thing it will change is potentially its gender, but you won't know what its gender is until you actually pick it. So this doesn't actually matter. It means nothing. And once this is already set at 5, it won't do it again, right? So it'll always be 5. So it doesn't matter if I walk in a million times, none of this code will change, and the chance of it being shiny won't ever change again either. So again, we're casting to the third person character. We're getting has a Pokemon. If that's false, we will bring up the accept Pokemon widget, which I will show you in a moment. We'll add that to the viewport. We stop the player from moving. We say UI mode only, and then we show the mouse cursor. Now, once that's all done, it will bring up this widget I'm about to show you, which is this accept Ringmon. I should say Ringmon. Now, obviously, this changes. This name updates depending on which Ringmon you're interacting with, because when it updates that current Ringmon, it obviously changes its name, and then we get that name value from there. So if we click on this and we go to our get text function, where is it? Probably have to go to the graph. Get text. You can already see that happening here. We cast a third person character. We get the current Ringmon. We get the info, and we just plug its name in. Easy peasy. Simple as that, right? And it will update whichever one of the 3 we are currently interacting with. The other 2 here are buttons, just yes and no. If we say no, it just closes everything down and doesn't update anything. You'll see this in the graph when I go to the event graph. So, for example, when we click no, we just remove the widget and we set the game mode back to game only and remove the cursor. Very, very simple stuff. Nothing too much to write home about there. The next thing we want to do, though, is the actual important code. So, the Ringmon we've selected has a gender. It has its level, and it knows if it's shiny or not. But we still need to work out the rest of the code. So we begin with casting to the third person character and getting that current Ringmon information. We then also set the fact that it has a Pokemon because we've accepted it, it's done. So we might as well do it here to stop some of this awful code lines and stuff like that. So we have our Pokemon now. The game thinks we have our Pokemon, I suppose, at this point. We then now need to start setting up some of these final bits of stat information and storing them on our third person character so we know what creature we have on us and what its information is. So to start with, we roll for our IVs. This is probably the simplest part of the code. It is just a random integer between 0 and 31. And we run that for every single IV we have. HP attack, defense, SP attack, SP defense, speed, and accuracy. And we then roll our final stats. Now there's no EVs at this point. We don't actually have to worry about making any EVs. Just thought I'd throw that out there. Because we get those after battles and trainer battles and random encounters. We don't get those just from rolling randomly now. We don't get anything. So EVs can be plugged straight in down the line. We'll come to that bit in a moment. So we've rolled our IVs. Our IVs then need to come out. We store those IVs separately. Which again, I'll explain where we get all this from in a moment. So let me just go through. Sorry, we roll our IVs. We have our between 1 and 31. That comes out. It then goes into our final stats because we will use those to work out our final stats. So let's open this up. Oh, I haven't updated this into the math code. Oh gosh. I've got an example in the encounter BP. It'll be better to use that than show you something I haven't actually updated. I assumed I did everything. Apparently I missed one. Easily done. Easily done. Let's go into this one. Where is it? Roll base stats. Yep. Here we go. Let's take this code. We're going to copy this code because it's exactly the same, and we're going to put this in here. Like so. There we go. And we just need to plug. I will fix that up in a minute. But you can see the actual code I'm doing here. So for HP is the one that's only going to be different. It's HP times 2 plus our HP IV. We take our current level, we times it by our current level, we then divide everything by 100, we then add in our current level, and then we add 10. That gives us our HP max figure. For everything else, we are doing our stat maximum times 2. We then add the IV for that stat in. We then times it by our current level, we divide everything by 100. We then add our current level back in, we plus 5, and then we times by 1, which I believe is to do with, oh gosh, whether it's the original trainer. I can't remember if that's this bit or not, but mine's just times 1, because it has no effect until I actually decide to add that in. I believe actually it could be to do with nature or something like that. Again, can't remember without looking at the code off the top of my head, but mine just times as 1 by now. But if you want to go ahead and look up the code for working out the final stats, you'll work out what that one is, and you can decide whether you want to do it or not. I chose not to, but who knows, I might change my mind down the line, right? So that's why I've left it in. That's what all of these things are doing. I've put this into, for example, if you look at the encounter, you can see it better here. This is what it looks like. You've so for accept Pokemon or set Ringmon, we've got getting the base. We get the. Sorry, I'm getting all flustered. IVs come in, our creature info comes in, we get our data table row names, which is base stat. We get the base stat data table. We do a for each loop where we find the name and we are matching that to our basic information. So we're checking this name, the name of the Ringmon we have. So for example, we selected Tailflame, it's going to get the base stat information and check for Tailflame. So it's going to go down all the row names, find Tailflame, and say, yep, it's equal, we've got it, we've got Tailflame. And if that's true, we can just put that array element straight into here, into the row name, and then we're getting this out row, and that out row is coming down here to get those base stat information for Tailflame. And then from that, we are just doing normal stuff. So we're getting the IVs, we're getting the base stat information from our data table, and we're getting the current level off of our Ringmon current info, the creature info we've pulled through. And then we're doing this, essentially. Well, this is what we're doing here, right? We're running this math code to work out what each base stat should be. And then that's what creates our final Ringmon stats. And that is just HP and HP max. Now, they go into the same one. You'll see from here. They go into the same one. So it sets our HP and our HP max. And again, this is used so that when we heal with Nurse Joy, or Dr. Linetti, or whatever the hell you want to call them, it sets the HP back to the HP max, okay? Sorry. I made a mistake. I do apologize. Sorry. It sets the HP and the HP max not because of when we heal. It's more because that when we level up, we end up with a new HP max. So if our health currently is 27, we level up. It sets the HP and the HP max to be the same. So if we have 93 health, we'll have 93 max health. We'll also have 93 health. Same for attack, same defense, same for SP, etc., etc. The only thing you probably wouldn't want to do this with is thinking about it is probably when we level up. Now this is just an accepting. We're just accepting the Ringmon. But when you level up, if you have 20 health and then you go and set both of them to the new HP max, this will overwrite and you'll get this back at 93, which you don't want. You want to keep the health at whatever the health you had when you leveled up. So if you have 50 health and you have 90 as a max and it goes to 93, you still want your health to be 50. So that's but that won't be coming up until we go through the encounter and the trainer battles and we actually do leveling up. This is just for accepting, so it goes into both. Sorry, I waffled on there a lot. So the other thing we want to do is we want to set our new max XP. So for this one, I do fast XP. I do the fast Pokemon leveling up. So mine is just current level times by 4 times by current level times by current level divided by 5. I didn't bother putting that into a math expression because it's literally just 4 bits of nodes. I'm not too worried about that. And then we just set that as the max XP as the member for our Ringmon base info. And then for the final stats, we pull that through as well. Or we push it through the return node, just even. So hopefully that made sense. If anything at any point doesn't make sense, please put it in the comments. I can go through it. But that's roughly how we are setting up our final stats. So we now have IVs. We don't have to worry about EVs. And we've got all our creature basic information. And now we have our final stats. So every element of our creature is now set up at this point. Let's go back into the event graph. The only thing we have left to do is set up the moves. Once those moves are set up, we're pretty much at a point where we're done. So for the moves, what we need to do is we need to get our base stat data table again. For each loop it, again, we get the name of the creature and we check that they are equal. If they are, great, we can move on and we can get that data table row. So don't forget, this goes for the last part as well. Get data table row names, and then for the second part, we are getting data table row of this. They're two different nodes. I know they sound similar, but they are two different nodes. And then from there, once we've got that name and we've broken that out point for the base stats, then we want to get a different data table. We want to get that move list data table so that we can check what our level is of our accepted Ringmon, level up moves set list. We are finding that move list and we're checking to see if it's on this list. Yeah, so it'll run through every name you have of every move. So if you have 1,000 moves, it will go through all 1,000 of those moves until it finds just Scratch and Growl for her badger, for example. And then it will add that to this list of possible moves. So yeah, so it gets the move list, finds it on this map, and if it comes back true, they are on there. So it'll look at every single name on there. So even if her badger's got 12 moves, it'll find every single one of them. But it will do a second check to see what our current level is. And it will only allow it to go past, if it's equal to or under the current level. So if we're at level 7 and her badger has a new move at level 8, it will ignore that and any other levels above that, and it will only add everything under that into the possible moves. Then we get the keys. We get a keys from our level up. We do a for each loop for the first to the last index of 3. and we do a get from the keys first. This is getting confusing. I do apologize. It's a bit of a wacky bit of code. You get the keys. You do a for each loop between 0 and 3, and we put that into a branch. We move that into a branch. We then get on our list of possible moves. We get the length, and then we say, is it over 0? If that's true, we can get our data table move list. From the keys, we're pulling off and getting doing a get, and then a row, and we're adding that into the row name. And then from the possible moves, we're doing a last index, and we're putting that into the get. I'll leave it on screen for a few seconds so you can have a quick look, and hopefully it will make you'll be able to at least just copy it, and you'll just understand, and hopefully it'll help you to understand. Once we've done all that, we'll get the table row move list, and then we're pulling off from that, and we're breaking that move strut. We also have a array for move slot. Sorry, we've got the move slot strut. We've turned it into an array. We're adding this information into this array, and once that happens, we remove that last index from the list of possible moves. Okay, so we get the possible moves array. We do a remove index, and that removed index is going to be the last index because it's getting added into this move slot. But we're only doing this for loop for 4 times. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 times. Once that's done, it'll come off to complete. Okay, because it's got 4 moves. It won't add any more moves on that, right? And it's going to get the last index put in there. Okay, so the higher the level. So that way, when you're encountering a new Ringmon, for example, it won't just add Scratch, Growl, and some of the earlier moves. It will add the latest moves into the move slot. So the higher the level of the Ringmon you find, the better the moves it will have. Okay, it'll have some of the later moves, not the beginner moves. Otherwise, you'll be facing like a level 60 Raticate that knows Scratch and Tail Whip. it just wouldn't make sense, right? So it's taking it from the last index for that reason, okay? And it removes that last index, and then it'll take the next last index, okay? That's what it's doing. Then we get our move slots, and we actually don't need this print string in here, by the way. You can get rid of that. Boop. Oh, that was just me checking the moves out. So we don't need to worry about that. All we need to do is we set the members of in the basic info structure. We're only setting, again, if I pull this, oh, where's it gone? Oh, it's over here. It's on the left hand side. We're only setting the move slot, and our move slot is just our move slot variable that we've created. So again, if you're wondering, oh my god, how did he get that move slot variable? I've just created a new variable, and I've set it up to be the move slot structure, and I've set it up into an array. Okay, that's how I got that, and you can then literally just use that to drive how many you're getting. Okay, how many moves you're getting and setting to your creature. That's probably the most complex thing about this, is setting up those moves. But yeah. So once you've set the moves, you've done your final stats, you've got your IVs, you've got all your creature information set up as you want it to, we can call from our third person character our Ringmon party. So I've obviously got some variables set up on my third person character. Let's get that bad boy open, show that. This is just deleting save information. Okay, that's fine. That's deleting save information. That is just bringing up that pause menu. But again, we're not even worrying about the pause menu today. Don't worry about that too much. The Ringmon party is a party strut. So, I didn't show you this up in the setup stuff. We have obviously some save information, which we will cover in the next episode of our updates. But we have a party strut, and we have a party info strut. We also have a party data table, which I don't think I'm using. I don't even know what that's for. Yeah, I don't know why I did that. That's weird. Okay, don't worry about the data table. That's not useful. Everything else is for the save, so it's just these two things that we're interested in. So we have a party info strap, which is all of these things we've created, set up. So it's a bit like setting up the creature master, which has got the basic information. We've got the base stats, the IVs, the EVs, the finals. We also have a party slot index, which is in the defaults. When you're setting these things up, it's just 0, 1 to 5, 0 to 5. When you set up the actual party. And we have a slot set information. Now this is going to be useful for a lot of things down the line, especially for things like capturing Ringmon, moving Ringmon, things like that. Okay, and also healing and also leveling up Ringmon. Okay, it's going to be useful to bypass a lot of checks and speed things up code-wise, having that slot set. So I've set this up like this, and then if we go back to the content drawer, back to our blueprints where we've got this party strut. This is just that party info strut we made 6 times. I've just added it in 6 times, and then in here in the defaults you can come along if you want to and go 1, 2. Mine's already set up. I set it up when I was doing code, but you can actually also set these defaults up in here as well. I'm going to do it now just so I can show you that it is fine. There you go. Okay, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now that knows it has its own specific slot ID then, which we can use. So close those 2 down and back into our accept the Pokemon widget. We then set that Ringmon party. Now at this point we have no Ringmon, so we don't need to do anything fancy. We just need to make a party strut, and as you can see it's got the 1 to 6 slot. Now normally you'd have to do some finesse and work out which slots are free, etc. But for this we just need to get slot 1 because we have no Ringmon. We don't have to worry about is there something in there, is it going to get overridden. We don't need to worry because we don't have one. So we can then make the party info strut from slot 1. And of course we're going to set the slot index to 0. We're then going to start plugging in all of our new lovely values. We also want to make sure that slot set is set to true. That's important to remember. So first things first, where we broke from our creature Ringmon, current Ringmon, where we broke that Ringmon information, we want to plug EV straight into EV. We then want to, where we've plugged in our IVs and we're taking our IVs out, we want to just double click on the string. So for example, if you do it here, if you double click, you get a little node. Pull off from that node and plug into IVs. That's your IVs and your EVs set straight away. The creature info obviously is going into our roll final stats, but where it comes out, it's actually going straight into our set moves. But when it comes out of our set moves, we want to plug it into there. So it's got to run all the way through our final stats and our set moves and come back out and into there afterwards. And then the final stats get plugged into final stats. If you're wondering how I got these nodes on the ends, open up any one of these codes. If I, for example, I'm probably going to break my code now, but that's fine. If I delete that out, all I need to do is take this strut and just hover it over, and when you get that green tick, let it go and it'll automatically create it. If I go back into the event graph, I'm now going to have to just set that up like this. There you go. I changed the name. I didn't change the name. That's fine. But that's how I get that. You can do that on either side, so you can force things in and out. But you can't do it from here. So for example, if I wanted my EVs to now go into my IV, it won't let me do it. You have to do it from inside the function. If you have nothing in here to do that, just click on one of the ins or outs and then create an input in and change it to what you need it to be. Okay. After that, it's all simple stuff. We're just setting the game mode back to game only. We're showing the mouse cursor to false. We're removing it from the parent. We're casting to the Ringmon game instance, and we're setting has Pokemon. Now that Ringmon game instance, I will go over that in the next couple of episodes where we start saving information. But I created my own custom game instance. I created my own game instance, and I have that value has Pokemon set up in here. That way, it will always stay relevant along saves, because the game instance is the only thing that remembers your information. It's the only thing that passes it through levels, okay? Or that and save games, but I don't want to save a game just every time just so it knows we have a Pokemon. So I'm just saving it into here so that it's always relevant and it will never forget that we have a Ringmon. Otherwise, you could just pick up another one, another starter and another starter. So it's good to make sure you're saving that has Ringmon Boolean in your game instance. And all I've done is I've casted the game instance, and I've got the game instance as the object, and I've just set that has Ringmon to true. And that will always remember that I have a Ringmon, and I won't ever have to set that Boolean, or at least I hope not. I haven't experienced that I had to yet. And you'll see it now. If I click play, it's been a bit slow. Again, as I said, it's been a bit slow because of the recording. But I can go to Oster, Tailflame, and Herbadger. I can go back. It will always remember which one I'm looking at. And if I click yes on Oster, you can see at the top left, I have Oster. And if I go into a battle now, I should have Oster available to attack. Now, Oster hasn't actually got any animation, so he will just be sat there. So I do apologise for that. Come on, game, give me an encounter. There we go. And there's Maggie. We'll go over all of this later in the next episode of updates. But yeah. Oh gosh, he's got. Oh, there you go. It's Mars. Oh, he's got free spray. Weird. At level 5. Oh, that's not right. Okay. Well, let's see what happens. Used free spray. Did it miss? Might have missed. Okay. Oh well. And Maggie's now not doing anything. Oh gosh, I've broken it. Oh no. So yeah, so that's how all of that information is pushed through. Oh no, it did miss. It did miss. Okay, that's fine. Whew. There you go. He is doing damage. He is doing damage. It's fine. Whew. I was worried there for a second that I had broken it. I hadn't. It's just Oh, he went first. Oh, naughty. You can see this battle playing out now. So you can see where we're at the moment. Wow, Maggie's faster than Oster. That's weird. That's confused me. And you can see it kind of playing out and how it's all running so far. So hopefully you're enjoying this so far, and hopefully these updates haven't been too much for you guys. I think the main updates for the accepting Ringmon or accepting your starter was the pulling it from a data table instead of pulling it from the creatures. And just to show you guys, oh gosh, not in here. There are no Ringmon now hidden behind here, and I had all my others hidden behind here, and there is nothing. Literally, there is no creatures in the world. But I've kept you for long enough. This has taken an hour. Jesus. Hopefully this has been useful, me showing you this update of where we are at. I won't probably touch my starter Ringmon again. I'm pretty happy with where they are. There's a couple of things I know that's missing that's shown off in other games, like secret abilities and traits, things like that. I'm not doing that at the moment. Not interested in doing that for my game at this point in time. If it's something I want to add in later on down the line, or if everyone's like, you got to do it, you got to do it, then I'll add it in down the line. But for now, at this point in time, everything that I need for a starter Ringmon is there. I won't probably change that, to be perfectly honest. So hopefully I've gone through it and it's okay for you guys and you understand. And if you don't, please comment. I'm more than happy, or join the Discord. There's so many of us in the Discord which would be willing to help you guys. But for me at this point, this is optimized enough for my game that I'm happy with it. Hopefully it works for you guys as well. But thank you so much, guys. Hopefully this has been okay. Don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you in the next episode. Take care. Bye.